All right. I don't know what. Good. Good friend of mine, Graham Rode. Graham died 2 years ago. And 4 or 5 years before that, his wife died, and he lost interest in life. And he'd grown bonsais for many years. And he grew a style of bonsai that's a bit different to mine. And when he died, I inherited his bonsai. And I donated a lot to the club. We had a sale here, soon after he died. And I put a whole lot of stuff on my benches, and they got so crowded. But I'm pretty confident now that the things that were at his place and are now at my place are all fine. You know, the things that are going to have lived, and the stuff that's not there is gone. And this tree has caused me untold things to think about. It's probably the smallest of the trees I picked up from Graham. And when I picked it up, there is one branch in this that's alive, that's this branch, and it's stuck straight out the back. And the best front for it is around here somewhere. I think that's the best, around where I've got this. There's the front. But the growth, this long thing, came straight out here towards me. And if you look at it, it's horribly straight. And it used to be attached to one of these. So there was a dead branch with a live vein running straight back towards me in exactly the wrong place. It's towards the back, it's boring shape. And so I've done a bit of preparation work for this. I've separated the live vein from the dead stuff. And I started doing that in December. I got a pair of cutters. And I went right down along the dead wood and cut it all off. So there's just the live bit left. And of course, when I did that, it was about half the thickness of what's there now. It thickened up enormously over the summer. And I've got rid of all the inflexible wood. So in here now, this will move a little bit. And so I pulled it round with a bit of wire just to tie it back to get the first bit of those bends into this bit. But it's got a long way to go. I think the top's got to come back here somewhere, and somehow we've got to get rid of all this horrible, just plain straight bit. So what I've done in preparation for tonight is I got one of these little saws. And if you haven't got one of these, if you see them on sale, pick one up. They are the most adaptable things of all time. And they are sharp, they are razor sharp, and they cut when they pull towards you. So as a thing of using them, you can line it up and see where you're going to go and start making the cuts and keep control over it. So, where are we? Down there. So I got this, and I started cutting down in here. And I got down to about here. And the tree's separating. This branch is separating from this one. And the closer I got down here, the harder it was. So I eventually got some root splitters and came back along that branch in here and separated all of that. So what I'm hoping you'll see in a second is if I pull that out, this is actually now separated I can't see what... all the way down here, this is now away from the trunk. See, I can get right in there, and that continues all the way down to here. Yep. So I've separated all that. This is still alive. This is going to be the top of the tree. I want to keep all the character of this stuff because that's all hard work to get it like that. And so before I talk about what I'm going to do here, let me talk about Graham and what he did with these trees. Ron Anderson gave Graham and I some bits of these things, junipers. Ron called them shimpuku. I don't know. A lot of people call stuff shimpuku. In Japan, shimpuku is the word for juniper. Yeah, and there are all kinds of shimpacus. There's Itagawa, there's all sorts. And they describe different foliage, different colours and whatever. But anyway, Ron was sure that these were Itagawa. I don't know. And they're the easiest things to grow from cuttings. You can grow them at this time of the year. A bit cold, but they will shoot at this time of the year. They'll shoot right through until spring, and they grow pretty quickly. Now what we did was I had some, Graham had some, and we put them into pots, and we went our own ways with them. I grew them one way and he grew them another way. And what Graham did was to put these things into the ground, grow a cutting, put it into the ground, and 2 years later he took air layers from the material that's in the ground. But before he took the air layers, he wired them all up, wired the tops, tied them in knots, twisted them, tormented them, and then took an air layer of what was left. So this has been the top of a bigger plant, air layered off at that height, and he grew a lot of plants like that to get that wild, natural sort of shape. And towards the end of his life, he didn't look after them well enough. I don't think he repotted any of his plants in the last 5 years. He was putting them into a soil mix that wouldn't sustain them, and he must have lost more than 50% of what he had in pots, and that's a bit of a tragedy because he had some wonderful material. But anyway, that's how he got them into this wild sort of format, and my challenge now is to get it back around here somehow. And it's a bit of a risky strategy, this, because if I go too far and there's a bit of a snap, well, that's the end of it. There's nothing else that's going to regrow from back down here. It'll be all right or it'll be all wrong. Use it as? You could. Well, yeah, you could. I did wonder about grafting some other bits down in here, and I haven't gone down that line, but possibly could have. So my plan tonight isn't to finish this, but to get it to a position where it can go to another stage. So there we go. And you can see, what can you see? That this is, where are we? There we are. But see how straight this is when you come down this line? It's almost without movement. And I want to get this over here somewhere to where this is going to be the new top. Let's see how it goes. So I have well and truly soaked some raffia. Now, I hope that if I get the raffia on tight enough, it'll stop this tree splitting away from down here, but still give it enough support that I can twist and bend this piece of material around. And I know when I put the raffia on it, it's going to effectively thicken up the trunk. It's going to make the trunk much thicker. And then if I put some wire on it, it's going to make it even harder to get it close onto this tree, which I think is going to be where the top should have been. So all I'm going to do tonight is get some raffia around here, a bit of wire around here, tie this back so it can't split away from the trunk any further down here, because if I'm not careful, give it a tug and this will break off. So I'll put a cable tie around it to down here to hold it together, and then try and inch it along, wrapping it around this one to make this the trunk, and this is somehow going to turn into a top. But I really don't want to make it into a top tonight because I want this to keep it growing and to keep fattening this up so it will grip onto the trunk. So this is sort of stage one of a little project. So, raffia, soak it well. The longer you soak it, the softer it gets. And the softer it is, the more pliable, and hopefully the easier it is to manage. So, look, you've all done this before. Around here somewhere. I find if you fold it in half, you get to the end of both halves at the same time, so that's not a good idea. If you're going to put it round, put it down so you've got a third and 2/3, So when you get to the end of tying this off, you're still going with this one, and then you can wrap the next bit underneath that. And I really don't want to get this too thick because, as I say, it's just going to make it bulkier and harder to get this bit. You can't see that. Harder to get this bit over and attached to that. So fold it in half, round the bottom, away from all of that. And then slide it through there. Pull it tight. So hopefully now that this raffia is supporting where the live vein meets the trunk. Because if you don't support it, they will split apart very easily. And once they split apart, araldite might help, but I don't think it'll do a lot for the strength of the tree. So I'm going to tie that round and then come up the trunk, trying to keep it tight, and pretty quickly I'm going to get onto the bit that I want to keep. And I think I might actually take that one off and get this first one now in between the dead wood and the live wood. So run it down in between so I can start dealing with this as a separate entity from the piece of dead wood here that it's had. So we can now come, where are we? Down there. Come on. I could have put the raffia on this afternoon, but would have left me even less here to do here tonight, so bear with me. This won't take all that long.
You've been relatively rough with that raffia, just chucking it on there, because looking at the TV.
Yep.
Looked like it could snap any second from my point of view.
I hope not. I hope it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not being.
No, that's fine. That's all right. Look down the bottom here. I'm tying it back onto the trunk.
Yeah.
So I've got a piece of wood, dead wood. It's as hard as nails, and it's I don't know, that thick or thicker.
Yeah.
So it's not going to break down there. That's not a problem. But now that I've got it separated, the live wood from the dead wood. That first twist is really important because that's governing how much pressure I'm putting on the live material rather than on the dead. But now it's reasonably flexible, the new wood, and it's got plenty. And this is that's got. I can move that around. Yeah, and the growth on the top, that's all right. So it looks a bit dramatic with that.
It does. I mean, I didn't realise how flexible that was.
Yeah, no, it's hopefully you don't hear a snapping sound and see Peter heading for the door, and I could just about drive out if David moved his car. I reckon I'd have to go quickly, leave here for the cups of tea. So it's fairly tight, and it's going to give it a bit of support. Well, I'm using my thumb, so every time the raffia comes around, my thumb goes over the top to support it. So I'm not putting the force on the trunk. I'm pinching against the raffia, and so there's another loop goes around, and so grab that with the thumb and do it.
It could be just, my eyesight. I mean,
No,
how
it's
small that is, and me looking at the telly, I'm probably thinking that it's a lot bigger than what it really is.
Yeah. Well, when I took this off when I took the live wood off the dead wood, the live wood was, as I say, about half the thickness it is now. And so I was really careful in getting that away from that and splitting it. Yeah. But since I did that, this is, the live stuff on the ends has sort of doubled since summer. And so I know that, this is strong, this is healthy all through here. And if it's alive and strong and healthy, it's also going to be flexible because I've cut out the dead wood that was making it stiff, and so I've left the flexible component. I mean, that's the plan. And so if there's too much dead wood back inside there, I think it's just going to make it stiff and it's going to make it more likely to split. So hopefully I've got enough out of there. Look, what I'm thinking with this, and I'll keep my eye on it and just see what happens, but what I'm thinking is that I'll leave this bundle raffia and wire, yeah, and hopefully still around this trunk, and I'll leave it there till summer this year. And when this goes around that, the raffia adds a thickness and the wire will add a thickness. So it's not going to be gripping tightly onto this. I know there's going to be a gap. And I would, as soon as I can get the wire and the raffia off, then I'll try and tighten up the coils that are around here and put the next lot of raffia around the outside of this and that, and some wire over the top, and then maybe a few cable ties to really, tighten it up and give it another go. And what I'd be hoping is that the more tension will put the live material closer to the deadwood, and I'd also hope that as the live material thickens, it will get back and put some, make it appear to be part of that. Now, if it doesn't, and I just wind up with this over here, well, I'll just have a tree with a very thin top for a while until it thickens up. So that's sort of what I'd be hoping will come out of this. And I'm not going to go much further with that. That's probably far enough for now. So I'll just tie that off, squirt that through the end. And look, I have hardly used any raffia at all there. One piece has done all of it. So pull that tight. Come on. Pull that tight. Where's it gone? There. I've got a bit of a tangle going here, so come on. It's all thumbs here, but pull it tight so it's got a grip and it's not going to unravel, and I can then just trim that up so that I don't have as much stuff in my way. And think about what I'm going to do next. Well, that's pretty good. Nothing's broken so far. And so let's just give it a bit more support by putting a cable tie or two. Cable ties are terrific for stuff like that. They hold it, clamp it, and you can pull them up really tight, and when they start to cut into the wood, I'll just, snip that in itself and out of the way. So I'm going to put a cable tie around the whole lot of that. So hopefully it will stop the live material from splitting away any further from the trunk, and just pull it up tight. There we go. And I don't want that sticking out and in the way, so I'll just give that a cut. Next, a bit of wire. See, there's quite a bit of movement in that. That's sort of looking possible. We'll see. I'm caught. If I really want to move that material, I'd use a thick wire. But if I use a thick wire, I'm going to be pushing this further out from its new trunk, which I don't really want to do. So it's what I'm going to think about doing is putting two wires on side by side, and I don't know, a couple of mil, 2.5 mil, and see whether that's enough to lash this into some proximity to where it's going to go. I hope so. I had some wire cutters here. When I look along this, there is one branch or a little cluster of branches that comes out here. I'm hoping that one of those will become the first branch for this tree. And so I'm going to try and make my wire at 2 different lengths. So one will eventually run out and along the first branch, and the other one will continue up and make the trunk. That sounds like a plan. To my view, if that's going to be the front of the trunk, the tree, somewhere around there facing you where this is, then this tree is facing in this direction. And if the tree's facing in that direction, the first branch should come off in that direction. It should follow the line of the trunk. Whatever forced the trunk to grow in this fashion will have worked also on the branches and will have had that same effect on them. And so I'd be hoping in all of this that I can get this first branch around and somehow maybe about here coming off this side, so it will give us a first branch and then come back with the top. If there's enough flexibility, that's what'll happen. And if there's not enough flexibility, it might go snap, or I might take it away and have another go another day. So let's come, I don't know, about there. No, it won't. There's a nice piece there to attach all of this to. So just a little bit of bending there, and feed that through. What can you see? So I'm now tying the wire off around this piece, so it'll hold it steady. I've got the wire in slightly different lengths, and that's got it nice and tight there, so I can start bringing the wire up around the live piece and the dead piece. And I'll start like that to get the wire nice and tight and secure, which hopefully we're getting now. And then, come on. It's going to come pretty soon, just around the live piece. Here we go. We're onto the live piece now. So all the bending can come from this point on. Whoop, ooh, I didn't like that sound. Don't know. Yeah. Now, look, when you're bending things, you know, noise is a good determinant. If you're doing it, but now you can hear things cracking and creaking, and if they start doing that, you know, stop. Give them a bit of a chance. So anyway, there we go. That's following the line of the live wood. Get round there. I should have made that odd, the shorter wire, I should have made it longer. All right, we have a bit of wire going most of the way up here, and look, it's not going to do a first branch, but take your chance on that. But it will be enough, I hope, to get this branch coming around onto that one. Get a little bit more. There's a useful piece. They're sharp. Now I've looked at this and I think I would prefer this trunk to be on this inside of this curve around here. And I'm not at all sure that I can do that. I think from a design point of view, it might be better doing that because then it will let me get rid of some of this gap in here that is between these two. But I'm just a little bit concerned about the sharpness that this bend is going to have to do down here. And with that cracking, creaking noise I heard a moment ago, I'm even more concerned about it. So I'm thinking I'm making a change of plan as I speak to you. See, we're quite way over from where that original, that foliage was back in here when I started this. And so if I keep going around there, I just put a fine cable tie on there just to hold it while I'm working on it, so I'm less likely to get a catastrophe in this area. It can hold that on. Pull it up tight so it's reinforcing that. Yeah. And then this, I'm hoping I can get down through there. I'm sure I will, but whether I get it tonight, come on. So we're now getting, look, that's still stuck on, yeah, that's good. This is what I'm going to make the top from, and this branch is now coming underneath. So all the hard work's done now. Another cable tie. And I'm going to hold that now against this branch. Yep, pin the two together. Because the more I do that, the more pressure I'm going to be taking off the branch and putting it back onto the other material. And these cable ties, you know, once I'm sure it's happy and healthy and living, I'll just snip those off to take the pressure off those over time. So that can just go in there. Hold the two of those together.
Now, in saying that, when you take the cable ties off, would you leave the raffia and all that stuff still? Yeah,
I'll do it in stages. Take the cable ties off, because I hope by the time I've finished this, the wire is going to be holding the raffia on, and the raffia is going to be holding, you know, the shape of the tree together. So I'll take it off in steps over a few months. But they're not going to grow much at this time of the year. So the cable ties aren't going to chop in a lot at this time of the year. But by spring, they'd want to be off so there's room for the tree to grow. And so I would then, holding this to protect it a bit, try and come underneath and up. Now we'll get there. It might take a while, and I'm not sure that But you can see if you look around the front now, we're getting to a point where trees coming this way, this can be a bottom branch, heading out this way. Off this is the now trunk. Imagine this is a trunk. And so this is going to wrap progressively around that, and so that there's live and dead material on the new trunk. And then as this thickens up, this becomes the tree, and it's got a direction, and it's got a front, and it's heading in a direction of normal sort of bonsai care. So let me just see if I can snake a little bit more around there. That cracking sound has got me worried. I think I might just put another cable tie a bit further along and try and slowly pull that back onto that and let it adjust to that for a while. And if it settles to that, we might go a little bit further later on. Just put it to one side. I'm nodding at Quentin here, just saying, just give it a bit of time to settle, which sounds like a good idea to me. I mean, I'd hate to be the first presenter here who did something and snapped the bit off and said, yes, it was a good idea, but it didn't quite work. So that's going to go in there. Come on. And then over the top. Come on. You need smaller hands than mine to do some of this stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So, what can you see? I've got a cable tie there. I've got a gap between these two. I want to get rid of that gap, so I'm going to just pinch the cable tie up a bit. Just slide along. And as you do that, you just... This part is just getting closer and closer. Let me just do a bit more in a spot you can see. So that will come up and around, around. That's the plan. And I'm not going to do it now because I think it needs a bit of time to recover. But you can see you can see the idea. By getting rid of the dead wood, you keep the flexible part, and the flexible part gives you the possibility to do other things with. Yeah. So that can just sit there. And look, it looks better that way already than when it did when it was coming out the back. And I might even, if I need it, I can still get back and graft some branches in here to camouflage what's going on out the back if I absolutely need to. So let's put that there and see what happens. If you've got time, I'll come back to it. If it lives. Yeah, no, I can do that. I can bring that back. You can have a look at it. So it's just, different stuff. I have something else to do tonight, so